Todd Blanche just admitted on national television that Donald Trump committed crimes likely with minors. The same man who went on television on Friday and said that Donald Trump's entire administration would be breaking the law by failing to release the full Epstein files just gave us the best insight into what they were hiding, and it's Donald Trump's crimes. He literally admitted it and then froze up after realizing that he'd been caught. We are going to get into the most disastrous interview we have seen out of the Trump administration as it relates to the Epstein files. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into Todd Blanche getting caught, just exposing Donald Trump's crimes and his involvement, the assault against victims of Epstein, I want to start, of course, where Todd Blanche did, trying to lie his way out of why he's refused to release the full files alongside Pam Bondi.
Dive right in. The Epstein Files Transparency Act called for all files with limited exceptions to be released within 30 days. On Friday, the Justice Department released just a fraction of the overall Epstein files. Why didn't the Justice Department meet that Friday deadline?
Good morning. So it's very simple and very clear. The statute also requires us to protect victims. And so the reason why we are still reviewing documents and still continuing our process is simply that, to protect victims. So the same individuals that are out there complaining about the lack of documents that were produced on Friday are the same individuals who apparently don't want us to protect victims. So we're going through a very methodical process with hundreds of lawyers looking at every single document and making sure that victims' names and any of the information from victims is protected and redacted, which is exactly what the Transparency Act expects. That's exactly what Attorney General Bondi expects. It's exactly what President Trump expects. So that's what we're doing.
Well, you're talking about protecting the victims. The law directed the Justice Department to, quote, release internal DOJ communications, including emails, memos, meeting notes concerning decisions to charge, not charge, investigate, or decline to investigate Epstein or his associates. That's the crux of what many of the victims or the survivors say they want to see. Why wasn't that information prioritized in the first release, Mr. Blanche?
Well, first of all, it was. And there are numerous documents released on Friday that address what you just quoted from the statute, that address internal communications within the Department of Justice and internal communications between law enforcement and the Department of Justice. But it's for the same reason. Because many of those internal communications talk about victims. Many of those internal back and forth between prosecutors and law enforcement talk about victims and their stories. And that has to be redacted. And by the way, everybody expects us to redact that. So the same complaints that we're hearing yesterday and even this morning from Democrats and from others screaming loudly from a hill about lack of production on Friday, imagine if we had released tons of information around victims. That would be the true crime. That would be the true wrong. And if anybody out there, I heard Congressman Raskin, the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee releasing statements accusing Attorney General Bondi, Director Patel, and myself of not doing our jobs. If they have an issue with me protecting victims, they know how to get a hold of me. But we're not going to stop doing it.
So that was all obviously gibberish, and good on Kristen Welker for pushing back. But I want to tackle a few of the specific lies that were told by Todd Blanche there. First, that there were victims that they are so intent on protecting, that's what the Trump administration cares about, the victims. If they had actually cared about the victims, they could have released the Epstein files on the first day of this administration. Obviously, could have done it on their own accord. There's also been a subpoena from the House Oversight Committee that they have failed to honor. So let's get that out of the way. And the idea that they're not protecting Donald Trump, insanity, considering that there have been at least 16 items that have come off the DOJ's website where they have shown some, about 1% of these public files, because they're covering up for Donald Trump. Two posts from journalist Aaron Parnas and Midas Touch literally debunk everything that that Blanche just said. Journalist Aaron Parnas wrote last night, new, Jane Doe Epstein survivor who reported Epstein to the FBI in 2009 sent the following letter to the Department of Justice today after it failed to redact her name in the release of the files. Midas Touch also reported that DOJ appears to have redacted Donald Trump's name from the allegations made in this exhibit in the Epstein files. Trump's name was in the original release, now it's blacked out. So they weren't originally redacting the names of a victim, but they went back and revised what they've released to redact Donald Trump's name. So nothing that Todd Blanche says is even remotely true. But what is interesting about the idea that they're redacting based on victims being shown in photos is what Todd Blanche had to say right here when he just admits that Donald Trump assaulted these victims.
Produced.
Mr. Blanche, I want to follow up with you on what you just said. You were referencing the 15 files released Friday. They disappeared from DOJ's website yesterday, including this photo of what looks like a desk with a drawer open containing photos of Donald Trump. Just to be very clear, to put a fine point on it, why were these files taken down? You're saying it was at the direction of a judge?
Well, you can see in that photo, there's photographs of women. And so we learned after releasing that photograph that there were concerns about those women and the fact that we had put that photo up. So we pulled that photo down. It has nothing to do with President Trump. There are dozens of photos of President Trump already released to the public seeing him with Mr. Epstein. He has said that in the 90s and early 2000s, he socialized with him. So the absurdity of us pulling down a photo, a single photo, because President Trump was in it, is laughable. And the fact that everybody's trying to act like that's the case is a reflection of their true motivation. But the reality is anybody, any victim, any victim's lawyers, any victim rights group can reach out to us and say, hey, Department of Justice, there's a document, there's a photo, there's something within the Epstein files that identifies me, and we will then, of course, pull that off and investigate it.
Are you saying that one or more of the women in one of the photos or several of the photos is a victim or a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein, and that's why you took those files down? And will they be put back up?
No, that's not what I'm saying. We, of course, if we knew that, if we believed that that photograph contained a survivor, we wouldn't have put it up in the first place without redacting the faces. But notwithstanding what we believe, we don't have perfect information. And so when we hear from victims' rights groups about this type of photograph, we pull it down and investigate. We're still investigating that photo. The photo will go back up, and the only question is whether there will be redactions on the photo. And of course, if there are survivors in any of the photos, we will redact them as Congress expects us to do, as President Trump expects us to do, and as the Attorney General and Director Patel have directed the department to do.
Okay.
So if Donald Trump was pictured being grabby and weird towards Epstein's victims, and these are people who want their identity protected because in some way they were abused by these powerful men surrounding Epstein, of course including Donald Trump, then isn't the admission there from Todd Blanche that Donald Trump was perpetrating these assaults? Isn't that the only conclusion? That if the women Donald Trump had taken pictures with reported abuse, that the DOJ struck Donald Trump's name from in those reports of abuse? Isn't Todd Blanche just saying that Donald Trump was an abuser, that the women he was pictured with, some of which we couldn't tell because a lot of those photos were covered up, could have been minors? He's saying that those are victims, the women Donald Trump was pictured with? So if you're saying, no, well, we didn't redact those photos because Trump was in them. We redacted them because there were survivors in them. Were they survivors of Donald Trump or Jeffrey Epstein? Of course, we don't know these things because the administration refuses to tell us anything, but this is the best assumption. Truly, this is the only thing that we can assume at this point, is that is why, according to Todd Blanche's logic at least, they redacted the photos. Now, before he went on MSNBC and essentially threw Donald Trump under the bus with a shocking and idiotic admission, at least idiotic for someone trying to engage in a cover-up, I would have just said that they pulled that photo down because it made Donald Trump look bad. Now, it does. But to say that those are victims that he is with raises the level of looking bad to looking bad because he was committing fucking crimes. That's what's happening here. And Todd Blanche continued to just put his foot in his mouth when he was asked about his call on Ghislaine Maxwell.
Couple more and we're almost out of time. I do want to ask you about Ghislaine Maxwell, who was, of course, convicted in 2021 for her role in helping Jeffrey Epstein traffic his victims. In July, you interviewed her in Florida, where she was serving a 20-year sentence in federal prison. Just a week later, Maxwell was moved to a more permissive prison camp in Texas. Why was she moved just days after you interviewed her, Mr. Blanche?
So that's a Bureau of Prison Security issue that I will not talk about.
Did you have anything to do with it? Did you have anything to do with it?
Let me finish. First of all, I am responsible for the Bureau of Prisons. So every decision that they make lands on my desk.
So it was ultimately your decision. You made the call. That doesn't tell us much. Yeah, you made the call because you're still Donald Trump's personal attorney. You have a different title, but you're certainly still acting in that capacity. You saying, well, I made the call, doesn't really give us any comfort, considering we know what calls you've already made on the Epstein files. Why would this be any different? And it is such an under-discussed element of this entire disgusting cover-up that currently Ghislaine Maxwell has got her feet kicked up. She's sipping margaritas and relaxing. She's getting DoorDash sent to her. She's got a cot that's supposed to be a cell. It's supposed to be, 4 people? It's just her. She's doing yoga, playing video games, having a ball. Maybe the worst photo that I've seen so far is that she was taking a walk, and this was, month ago? 2 months ago max. So let's call it at the earliest, early October. Early October in Texas, Ghislaine Maxwell was walking around with an umbrella because it was too sunny. She's a sex criminal. And Todd Blanche said, hey, guys, I got to make a call. Bureau of Prisons, don't let Mrs. Maxwell get too much sun on her. Well, we couldn't have that. She got a little sunburn. Oh, we couldn't possibly imagine her enduring a little bit of discomfort. Let's just make sure Mrs. Maxwell is all set and good. Can we do that? Can you get in her umbrella if she's going to take a walk? And we don't want sun in her eyes. Did anyone got sunglasses? We got some Ray-Bans down there for Mrs. Maxwell. Just go ahead and take care of that. Thank you so much. Really? That's the type of treatment? Again, they allowed Epstein's victims, multiple, to be doxxed in the release. The one thing that they said they were focused on most, the reasoning behind not releasing all of these files, they claim is they got to protect every victim. And they've already doxxed multiple. But Ghislaine Maxwell, every need is taken care of, right? Completely pampered in her little prison. And yet they're still the ones trying to dispute that there's anything going on here. Oh, it's a hoax because Democrats cared so much about it. And what does that even mean? Oh, now Democrats they care about an issue that has become incredibly important with Americans, and that has revealed itself to be something of great panic to our criminal president. Yeah, why wouldn't someone care about that? It doesn't really seem like a good response. But we're not going to get a lot of those out of Todd Blanche. He's just going to humiliate Donald Trump. But we're going to keep talking about that on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.